Good morning, America. This is the Cats Roundtable. This is John Catsimatidis. Sunday morning. And lots of things happen in our country. The big controversy now is immigration. What's going on with immigration? With us today is Michael Wild, one of the foremost specialists in immigration law in our country. Good morning, Michael. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Honored to be with you, John. How are you?
I am fine. Now, you are a renowned immigration attorney. You've handled high profile cases like Melania Trump, Pele, the soccer player, entertainer Boy George, and I'm sure many, many others. Um, now, the problem with immigration, there are people just walking over the border, and there's people that try to go through the legitimate way. And I think most Americans, probably 98% of them, don't understand how immigration really works by law or whatever. What can you tell them?
Happy to, and thank you again for having me. My dad is actually a dean in the field. He represented John Lennon and Yoko Ono in a celebrated case in the 70s when the Nixon administration was trying to get rid of John. These days, immigration has changed in some ways, and sadly hasn't in all these decades. Dad opened his office in 1958, a few years after the Walter McCarran Act was passed in 1952, and the basic structure of the Immigration and Nationality Act still remains despite the changing of economies. To this day, we have quotas that are retrogressing for families and for businesses that are trying to bring in loved ones and employees. And you have a border crisis that we saw the net effect in the last few days at our southern border. So things have not gotten better, unfortunately. Every president in our nation's history has had to onboard a certain amount of people into the workforce because it's not healthy to have a community like this living underground. So on the one hand, you want to make sure that we have a strong border. On the other hand, it's foolhardy for us not to create a system where we onboard foreign nationals, particularly those with talent. And I mean talent, John, from those people that are picking blueberries in Georgia to making beds in California and Manhattan hotels, because there's a lot of work that has to get done. And this is an opportunity for us to invest in a good workforce, as I believe, and it's been proven, that the immigrant community produces a hell of a lot more than it takes.
Well, I'm an immigrant, and I believe in what you say, but I also believe that uh, we shouldn't just have open borders where we don't know who's coming in and who's not coming in, and not let in MS-13 people from San Salvador that end up killing people.
Our president is effectively, and with the likes of Fox News and a lot of other xenophobic media outlets, scaring people into believing that we're opening our doors, those golden doors that we have, to foreign nationals who would want to cause us harm. Now, sadly, John, there are a few exceptions to the rule.
No, I understand that, Michael. But all I'm saying that we should audit these people coming in.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
nobody doubts that.
and that's all I want is
Oh, yeah.
people that come in should be audited. That they don't. I'll tell you another thing that happened, Michael. Kids with tuberculosis, kids with all kinds of strange diseases are let into public high schools, and all of a sudden the American students get sick. I mean, when my grandfathers came through Ellis Island, they checked them for diseases, and if
They
they had
still
a
they still
disease,
have
they sent
medical
them back.
yeah, they still have medical examinations. We have clients in our waiting area still with medical files. It used to be you had to show that you didn't have tuberculosis and you walked in with x-rays. But the government is doing a good job of vetting people, and a few bad eggs will slip through. And sometimes, sadly, there are people that end up radicalizing after they've gotten green cards or citizenship. And our knee-jerk reaction in Washington with our elected officials is to put out a Band-Aid rather than fixing the broken system we have. When we see the work visas, the H-1B professional work visas, and the lack of some kind of economic symmetry in trying to help get the world's talent into our labor pool, we see the kind of mistakes that are made. We see the kind of dichotomy or the schizophrenia in the labor/immigration world where employers are forced to pay prevailing wages, and then they have to advertise to see if Americans can find the job. So on the one hand, they're giving a very strong wage to a foreign national. On the other hand, they have to open it up to Americans. So there is, unfortunately, a net effect that's boiling over. And where President Reagan years ago shifted the responsibility of policing immigration to employers, we now have a stronger economy and a new normal where the responsibility of policing immigration is way too onerous for employers. And they are getting punished for the government for not doing a good enough job on what the government really should be doing. So we're both kind of preaching to one another, and we have to get this right.
And that's part of the problem. My daughter had a GOP dinner because she's Manhattan GOP chair now. The other night, and some of I was a Bill Clinton Democrat, and I invited some of my Bill Clinton Democrat friends, and I said to one of them this morning, I said, "Well, how did you feel being at the first GOP dinner?" And you know what she says? It wasn't that bad. I wish the blue and the red would work closer together than being at odds with each other.
Yeah, that's the problem that we have. There are no Scoop Jackson Democrats either. I'm a very proud Democrat. I'm a former mayor myself in New Jersey. I just won the primary again. I hope to be serving in January again as the mayor of Englewood, New Jersey. And I work very hard with people of all walks of life, from all rank and file, politically too, to make sure that we find a median that's right. On immigration, I don't believe that we can afford to get this wrong. I just published a book. It's coming out next month. Alan Dershowitz was gracious enough to write the foreword to it. And it's my personal prayer that we'll get this right. We have all sorts of wonderful history and legacy with immigration, and we want new things developed and invented on U.S. soil, and we want to be safe. And that safety also comes, I'm sorry?
I agree 100% with you.
Yeah, and that safety also comes with a good dash of mercy. So when parents and children are presenting from South America, rather than insinuating that they're going to be a burden financially or that they're potential criminals, we have to show heart, and we have to make sure that we have the decency not to separate parents from children or leverage the children in a way as a deterrent to stop the parents from coming. And I'm sure
but let me ask you, Michael, can you just let these people just keep marching in versus going to their government, applying for a visa so we can check them out?
I agree we cannot create a system where they're just marching in. But if the application for a visa for somebody is going to take 10 or 15 years, it's not practical to think when they're facing gang warfare in the country that they're living in doesn't do anything about it, that they're going to sit tight and wait. Listen, most people coming from Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, they're passing through Mexico. And I know the economic magnet of America is pulling them through, because once they're out of harm's way and they're in Mexico, you would say that they should resettle there, that the risk and the danger is off. But America has a different sense of hospitality. I would consider it or liken it to a biblical sense of hospitality, where we saw years back the renaissance of our country was started by people who had the sense of propriety, that this should be a safe haven.
Especially New Yorkers. We love people. New Yorkers give more to charity than the rest of the country almost.
Yeah, it's amazing. And look at the vibrancy that the immigrant community has done for parts of the city historically, like the Bronx and so forth, that didn't have the kind of pizzazz that it has now. And we have to get this right. We're not getting it right in the world of fashion. The H-1B3 professional work visa doesn't work itself out during Fashion Week. We're not getting it right when it comes to foreign students. We can't onboard foreign students into the workforce without them going through all kinds of contortions and then competing against them in the future. And the world's smartest scientists and technologists are saying, the hell with America. Why should I come here and go through the torture of all this when there's a new normal of conducting business which doesn't require them physically to be in America?
Michael Wild, we're out of time. But thank you for calling in, and I agree with you on many, many items, and I believe in immigration. We should get the common sense people from the Democratic Party and the common sense people from the GOP together, and to come up with some laws that work for everybody.
Thank you for your time, John, as well,
Okay.
and I wish you well, and thank you for opening up your airwaves to such an important subject. I urge your listeners to go look for my book. It's, again, Safe Haven in America, Battles to Open America's Golden Doors.
Michael Wild, thank you for everything you've done for America, and we'll catch up with you again real soon.
Pleasure.
This is the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back.